Hey guys, my name is Patrick Edwards, and this is my final project for the Verge Online BDC. Alright, y'all, I'm low on time, so I'm going to try and really quickly take you through the sector map. We have 53.5 acres, just about 53.42. Right here I have our annual rainfall, our annual snowfall, average wind speeds in the month they're windiest and least windy. And we have our angles for wind sector, wildlife areas, which is really everywhere. These are all big hunting properties around us, so they're largely empty. Um, cool neighbors. These folks are really awesome people, and we're good friends, and we're all trying to integrate our properties together over time. It's down the road, but here's our wind directions, and not a lot of issues with pollution, chemical or otherwise. It's pretty quiet out there. It's pretty dark at night. Really no fire risk. No crazy wind because we're protected from this ridge line, and the winds don't get too crazy anyway most of the time. We're in zone 4A or DFB for the Köppen Geiger. And we have about 142 frost-free days starting in the middle of May and ending around the middle of October. And I'm going to move on. All right, moving on to values. I wrote down a fair bit, and please feel free to read it, but I felt like I should probably just sum up. So the main theme throughout almost all these points boils down to our need to live closely with nature to become healthier, happier, and more understanding humans. I really appreciate the incredible opportunity to develop our relationship with this earth. Nature knows best, tells us as much, and whether we're listening or not, it's going to react as such. I prefer to listen and grow and foster the spirit of stewardship, and in doing so, we'll be able to provide more security for our family for generations. Just through the care and time we take, all of these values can be met. Overarching visions for the property include a sizable food forest that will meet nutritional needs for both ourselves and our animals, sheep, ducks, chickens, etc. Cover cropping for soil building and graze will play a role in this as well, propagating hardy and disease-resistant tree species. Holistically managing our Sector 5 will ensure that local wildlife habitat is preserved, thus increasing biodiversity and providing us with sources of game. So, moving on to water, this large pond here does not currently exist. It is one we'd like to put in. There is a spring source here and another likely spring source here, certainly a seep. And all this catchment area here leads right into where this pond should go in a big flat spot and make a really good area for a forest pond. This overflow will head down through what is currently a seasonal brook uh, and into a check dam, and that check dam will lead down to a fish pond that we'll be able to see on the next slide. You can see the fish pond right here. That will overflow. This is another seasonal brook that exists into this pocket pond. That should be stepped for some plants and everything. And this is getting into duck area too. This flows over into these, and these ponds do exist. So we're going to widen them up a little bit and maybe add steps if we can. They're a little dried up at the moment, so they'll probably need to be recleaned. But this is kind of duck zone, chicken zone, and also our greenhouses over here. But that one comes here in a little bit. All right, so here you can see the future site of the fish pond. As you can see, we have a lot of goldenrod and swamp aster, and this is an area that stays really damp year round. It's got a lot of good clay in the soil, and it should make for a really good pond. Right here is the bottom area, the ponds that exist. This is a bunch of cattails and everything in there. As you can see, it's pretty overgrown, and it's going to need some revitalization. Over here, on this other side, you can see these brooks I was talking about that run through the backside of the property. And during the spring melt, they will have water moving through them, or during a heavy rain. Right here you can see our driveway. It's hard packed gravel and it's graded well. It's a very good driveway. And that is about a quarter mile long. runs up here, and that's going to lead into across this culvert here in these ponds that will lead into our main access towards the rest of the property. Right here, I have the access plans in greater detail, and this is our big field. Bigger road will be on this side. I'm going to be clearing these trees and brush and everything back a fair bit as well. And then a smaller path big enough for an ATV on this side. And you'll be able to see that in the base map as well. This is our driveway. There's a lot of logging roads that go through the back ends of the property, and we've cut trails and sort of been trying to open up some of those logging roads. And these are these brown lines that you see going through the forested parts of the property. All right, moving on to structures. Um, the house is already here, and I'm going to zoom in on the next slide, but this is going to be our general buildings area. The only things that are actually there currently are the house, though, and a shed where the greenhouse will go. All right, so now we're zoomed in a little bit, and you can see the buildings better. The high tunnel here, as I said, will have starts in early spring, well, early for us spring, and some tree nursery business. We have a little fire pit here, a pergola. Uh, the greenhouse, as mentioned, is going in. It's going to be Dancura style with very good insulation, big berm on the back. Propane, that's there. Root cellar is there. Well is there. This is where our ducks are going to go with some fencing around there so they have good access to food forest and mushroom logs area, shiitakes, wine calves, oysters, lion's mane. Chickens are in a yard with the coops inside. The coops are on skids, and the grapes and nasturtiums and things will be grown over top to provide shelter and food. Then we have the sheep barn. It's going to be right over here with the shed attached, and it's going to have a salt box back on it to max out light. And our last structure here is a small apiary that will be going in at some point, but we're not in a hurry. So our food forest is going to be installed over a period of years. The big base map you'll see is a 5-year plan. And it's subject to change. You learn new things all the time. But this is where it's going to be going in. And on the next slide, you'll be able to really see what the big plan is. So this is really going to be our main food production area, as well as alder for coppicing and carragana as well, coppicing, nitrogen fixation, and biomass. We're going to have a nice little perennial veg garden going in here in the sun scoop. We got our fruit trees. They're kind of on a northern facing slope on the back end of this field, so they'll be protected from false thaws. Nice little garden here by the pond between the greenhouse and our paddocks coming up here, about 2,200 to 2,500 square feet each. There's 12 of them all in all, and our sheep should be able to rotate from one to the other, about 6 sheep or so, and they should get back to paddock 1 in about 30 days. These apples and plums are here, raspberries are there. Yeah, it's pretty stacked by height. Yellow is big, red is medium, blue is small. As we go further down the field, you can see here this is where that granite ridge is, which provides a lot of thermal mass, and this is a really good area. It gets good sunlight right in the morning, very rich soil. We've got some sunchokes and blackcurrants growing there already, and this is really where we get our chestnuts and our bigger trees are going to go in and try and make this really productive area. This is the rest of our paddocks. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have some trees scattered in these areas as well, mostly to provide shelter for the animals. And we have some run-in sheds as well. All right, well, here's the map all zoomed out so we can see everything that's going on. You can see my sunlight coming in here. This is angled to summer sun, but the winter sun is going to be more in this zone. So that's where comes in first thing in the morning. This is noon, evening. There's our springs, about 1,500 feet up at the top, all of our paddocks. I tried to organize everything as well as I could so the light would hit it all. It's both stacked vertically and arranged so that light will peek through and try and hit a bit of everything as the day goes on. This area will be more heavily cleared. This area, because it's so sloped, we're probably not going to do a tremendous amount, maybe a little bit, but erosion could be a problem really quickly. And then a little more thinning down by this pond in the yurt area. This is going to be mostly managed for sugar bush, forest farming, and maybe one day silver pasture.